I don't have any edibles. The only time I ever did edibles, I was mints from Portland, Oregon. I took one, and like I don't know, 40 minutes went by. I wasn't doing anything, so I took another one, and then
Mistake.
and then
Oh,
and then and then that's when they both started kicking in, and it was like, holy shit. I was watching Ever After with Lara, and it was
no, you
it was
weren't.
it was a trip, man. It
Never
was a fucking
again,
trip.
You
anyway.
weren't.
Yeah. I got a
No.
punch bar I've been meaning to get to.
Nice.
Is
But
that a little blue pill?
Ah, nice.
No,
Nice.
these are,
What are they? 9.5 milligrams?
Milligrams.
Yeah.
Milligrams.
so
Milligrams.
they're kind of weak, so you got to take two or
Your
three
shit's
of them.
working, David.
Mhm.
Are you,
All right.
Did you take any of those before we started recording?
No, I didn't. No, I did not. I'm actually out of those. I got to go
Oh.
back to the
You know,
dispensary.
you know what they say? It's like, when you're on to weed or whatever and you're like tripping balls, like all the great things are so fucking great, but then all the terrible things are fucking terrible. So
Yeah.
you don't want to watch any of these things when you're tripping
Thanks, John.
balls, because it's like, hey man, let's watch the Happy Days episode where
I
where
get home from
Fonzie
one of the hardest days of my life today, and that's what I had to do.
Fonzie
The
jumped
No,
the
it makes it
shark.
more fun. It definitely makes it, because it makes the the stupid stuff even
is-
stupider.
It is so stupid. Before we get into this,
Right.
I want to apologize to all of you for requiring that viewing, because it is literally the worst moment in television history. It was like nothing was ever worse than that moment.
If
So
it wasn't the worst, it's lowest 5.
it's
definitely.
it's up there. Now I can list things like I've said.
I couldn't
Sometimes
even look at it for 2 minutes because it was
sometimes
fucking bothering me.
sometimes there are shows that are so awful, shows or movies that are so awful that they are actually entertaining. And this was certainly one of them. Now,
oh my God.
and like I
Yeah.
say, like there are shows that are just boring as shit, and it's like, okay, I don't even want to make fun of it, like, because it's not even entertaining. This was so bad. It was Happy Days, man. What is Happy Days about? Fonzie goes around in his jeans and his leather jacket on his motorcycle, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna snap my finger, and women will suddenly lose track of who they are as human beings and follow me." That's what Happy Days is, right? But not this one.
Oh no, not this one. This is just the story of the Italian guy who goes on the Italian poor man in the garage who goes on vacation
Poor man in
with
the
the
garage.
with the business owning Irish
No.
family. Oh
So
yeah, in the 50s. Okay.
So
Right.
what happened was, like, I only watched part 3. It's a three-part story, but they recapped everything at the beginning of part 3 anyway. So it's like you don't even have to watch those first 2 parts. Apparently, Fonzie went to Hollywood because he was gonna get like a part in a movie, but then they saw Richie Cunningham and they were like, we like him better. And
Yeah,
so,
that
like,
makes sense.
yeah, that, like, I would rather see Richie Cunningham in a movie in the 60s than Fonz, because Fonz, I don't know, like, Fonz, I feel like he's kind of a dick. I don't dislike his character, but he's not one of my favorites in of sitcoms. What's up?
I don't think he's a dick. I don't. I think he's he's a guy. He's just
He-
there. But I
Yeah.
don't think I just don't think it's believable.
He's
How
the
are
de-
you that cool?
He's
If a real cool dude, all right, if a real cool dude, some guy's like, hey, I'm the king of the beach. You're not the king of the beach. If you're really cool, you go like this.
okay. Right.
That's cool. That's cool. The
He-
guy who's got nothing
Yeah.
to prove.
He is the definition of testosterone overload.
Yeah.
He's like, I got challenged and I gotta take the challenge. And it's like, but you're fucking risking your life because someone flapped his lips at you. So it's like, really? Do you have to do that? Because if it was like, if someone did that to me, said, hey, I'm better than you are because I can water ski faster than you, I'd be like, yeah, probably. Okay.
I've never water
Yeah,
skied.
cool.
Of course.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is first and foremost. Arthur Fonzarelli, like, I could never be Arthur Fonzarelli's friend because it's like he puts himself in the most precarious situations just to prove that he's better than someone else. And it's like, well, that sucks.
And then all these shenanigans ensue.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's always trying to help him bail him out. And again, not a bad. It's not that he's a bad guy.
Right.
He's a bad guy, but this whole notion that he's the cool guy, that you're not cool. The cool guy
No.
just doesn't give a shit. That's
He's not.
and then we're
I'm
because you're
sorry,
so
it's-
not cool, we have to keep bailing you out of trouble.
Mhm.
It's not cool to go around on water skis with a leather jacket on, like on the water.
Clearly, you've
actually
never
not
been to
cool.
Miami.
Obviously.
No, literally, I'm not good. First of all, I have a nice leather jacket. I'm not
Mhm.
going to try and ruin it with salt water. I'm actually a sane person.
Right.
End of story. What is he doing?
Such a
It's-
waste of money. But that. Believe it or not, when you told me, John,
Yeah.
when you said to me, "Hey, we're going to do an episode on the episode of Fonz jumping the shark," literally the first thing in my mind was leather jacket and leather boots on the fucking beach.
Yeah. Wait. So you hadn't
Should
seen
never happen.
this episode previously?
No, I had, and that's
Okay,
what I'm
yes.
saying. That's the
Right,
thing.
right,
As
okay.
a child,
I
when
see.
I was a
see.
kid and I saw that, I was like, "Yo, why do motherfucker wearing leather boots and a leather
And a
jacket
leather
on
jacket.
the beach?"
It's
Okay.
so weird. It's just
And-
so weird.
See, now
Can
this proliferated itself a bit through my life because I remember when I was younger and it was like, early 90s and grunge was coming out and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And so like everybody was wearing like combat boots. And then they started doing the thing where like some of the band guys would be wearing shorts with combat boots.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, I can't get into that look. I was like, if you're wearing shorts, you're wearing sneakers. You're
Yeah.
not wearing combat boots with a pair of damn shorts. And I don't know, maybe it was this that somewhere in my psyche was like, you do not wear shorts with, big
Right.
pomping boots.
And that's like if I wore a spiked collar to the beach.
Mhm.
It's just not. It's not helping me to swim.
No. Did you ever
Like-
Did you ever watch Portlandia?
I haven't
All the
seen
time.
that.
Actually,
Right.
I
Do-
did in a long
You've
time.
seen
All
the
the
ones
time.
with the freaks, the
Where-
goth on
Where
the beach?
dancing on the beach.
Yeah, dancing
Yeah,
on the
dancing
beach.
on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
All right. I wanna point out now, like this is right before Fonzie actually did jump the shark, right? So he's hanging out and he's like, the guy challenged him and he's like, all right, I'm gonna challenge you, but here's my terms and conditions. You gotta go first. I can't even do his voice. Like,
Oh,
it's
God,
such a
you did a great job,
it's such
actually.
a stupid voice. So it's like, you gotta go first. Hey. So the guy's like, really? Really? And he's like, okay. And the other guy's like trying to talk him out of it. And that guy was actually smart. The one who let go of the thing before he jumped on the ramp, he was smart because he's like, okay, look, what am I doing? What is the point of this? There's literally no point. I'm not risking my life. Fine, whatever. Let them make fun of me. Then Fonzie, first of all, wearing his white t-shirt with his swim trunks, like a normal person on the beach, was talking to Richie, saying, all right, well, it's my turn, whatever.
Yeah.
Then they cut to him on his water skis, and he's wearing his leather jacket again.
I love that.
And I'm
So
like,
it was a flotation device.
right. I'm like, did you seriously put your leather jacket on in preparation to water ski? I don't understand it. I don't understand you.
It
Because if I'm
amazes me.
gonna die,
Yeah.
I'm gonna look
I'm gonna look cool.
Hey.
And he's going to stand in front of, he's going to
Hey.
look at his reflection in the shark's teeth, and he's going to reach back with his comb and look and go to comb and go, oh, it's perfect.
Hey,
Oh,
my
Oh,
funeral's
look
gonna
at
be
me.
great.
I'm jumping
Hey.
the shark.
Hey,
what amazes me though is that there were people in the world that are still walking among us who thought that the Fonz actually was cool. Like they literally
No,
like
it's
that
worse.
guy's
They actually
cool,
still
man.
do. There's people who still do. I know those people, some of them. I met them. They're like, hey, I'm gonna touch your ass. To my
Hey.
property.
but like,
Hey.
okay,
I'm
here's
like,
here's another thing about the Fonz. At this point, he's like 40 years old, right?
Yeah.
He's always been like when he was introduced on the show, he was like in his mid 30s, right? So he was always a
he
lot
was
older.
already old.
Hanging
And
around with all these children.
and he goes into the hangout where all the high school kids hang out, and he goes, girls, and they're like people half his age flocking to him, and he's like, hey, like, what the fuck? What is this? What are you doing? What are you trying to teach our children? Anyway, or whatever. Hey, when I
But he
become
was cool
I'm
because he had a
inappropriately
motorcycle.
active.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh,
Hey.
And then at the end, when Richie Cunningham like was trying to figure out whether he should sign the 5-year Hollywood contract, and he's like, I've always written good, and he's like, hey, no, you mean you write well. Don't ever say that the Fonz don't have good grammar. I'm like,
Oh man.
what is this? What am I looking at here?
I am
Literally.
fascinated. So one of the things I always find amazing is how
Mhm.
bad family television can be. All of the and it's not just the the sitcom because they can be very good,
Right.
right? The sitcom can be very good.
Mm-hmm.
Look at shows like, first of all, even going back, I Love Lucy was very cutting edge, and it was a very at its time. It's easy to judge it now, but in its time,
I think it's a great show.
well, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
almost every bit that has been done on popular TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
she in some way was the progenitor of that bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to then and then going back to now, right? Those bits start making their way into like family shows.
Mm-hmm.
But there were really good shows, right? I Love Lucy, really good show. The
Mm-hmm.
Jeffersons, really good show. Seinfeld, really good. There's a lot of them that are really great pieces of art.
Right.
And then there's family programming. Shows like Happy Days, shows like Make Room for Daddy. Family programming is the shows like this, right?
Uh-huh.
It's the Make Room for Daddy. It's the going. What was the one with the little stupid blonde twin girls, Baby Michelle?
Oh, Full House. Full House. Yeah, that's
Or the Urkel show. Did
The
I
Urkel
do
show.
that? Come
Yeah.
on. These shows are so bad. I think they're so fucking
terrible.
bad. I can't. It
Terrible.
hurts to watch them.
All
Yeah,
right.
but I mean, there were shows in the time. I mean,
Oh,
like wasn't Brady Bunch on around the same time Happy Days was on?
Brady
I
Bunch
think preceded.
predated.
Yeah.
Brady Bunch predated. So Brady Bunch ended in 1974. That
Okay.
it was on for 5 seasons, either 74 or 75, one of those. And then Happy Days, I think, started in 73. So like there was like a slight overlap.
There's a little overlap.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. Because you notice, there seemed to be, you could see how some of that overlap. Because Brady Bunch, I mean, at least in the beginning, it was a great family show. I mean,
Sure.
it was like, and it was also for the time, it was kind of groundbreaking because you had a divorced couple getting together with kids. I mean, and having
Although
a good family life.
they never explicitly stated that she was divorced. There was
Yeah.
yeah.
Wasn't one a
right.
widower, and the other one was divorced? It was like
I'm
Mike
not
was
sure about
Mike
that.
was widowed,
I thought so.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and Carol, while she never said it, she said that her last name used to be such and such, and then it was Brady, and she never said that her husband passed away or anything like that. So it was kind of implied that
Right.
they weren't allowed to say it.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
And then and you notice too that that show, the Brady Bunch, in its later seasons, they had the thing where, Brady's go Hawaiian.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like the 3 or 4 episode, arc
Yeah.
of them going Hawaiian, and then they do the same thing on Happy Days.
That's funny
So it
because
was,
I was
yeah.
thinking about that, like the Hawaiian episode. I kind of hate those episodes where it's like they take 3-part episodes and they go into like some ridiculous thing like, oh, we went to Hawaii and we found a cave with a bad luck whatever like
It
necklace
is
thing.
it
Tiki
is
Idol.
taboo.
Disky, yeah.
It is
So
taboo.
and they were like, oh, well, actually, we can make it good luck. So it's all good. And it took 3 episodes to make that happen. So
I still remember. It's crazy because how
Yeah.
much I remember that one with the Brady Bunch too. It's pretty wild.
listen, I used to watch the Brady Bunch because I had a like raging crush on Marsha Brady. So, I watched it for that reason. If only I had
Also
known,
one of those.
if only I had known that she was already too old for me when I was born.
Yeah.
She's,
Yeah.
yeah, she was like,
Uh,
I don't know, I think she was 20 when I was born.
I had a crush on Greg and Marsha, and that's kind of weird. I
That
don't
is a
even know
little
how to
strange.
explain that.
So,
No, it's not weird. It's perfectly normal.
It,
And
it
it's
was very
okay.
confusing.
We
It
all-
was like,
listen,
I bet it
why
was.
did I crush
When
on everybody.
when they made the movie, they did what everyone wanted to see on the show.
Oh yeah.
They had Greg and Marsha get together. I mean,
Yeah, that was weird. That is super ass holy
Mhm.
weird.
It would have
Why?
been perfect if they had done the other thing everybody wanted, which was Greg
Greg and
and Carol.
Wait a minute. You know what? But we forgot we were actually talking about Happy Days, and they're doing weird incesty shit with like Chachi hitting on the maid and it was weird.
well, let me tell you something weird about Happy Days.
Yeah,
As far as Chachi, because Chachi is like a little creepy
he's
kid,
weird.
but like he's like funny creepy where he'll like try to flirt with someone and they'll be like, yeah, in your dreams, kiddo, and he'll be like, oh, that hurt. Like he doesn't like try to harass them. But didn't he like really tried to get with Joni? He was too
Yeah,
young.
no, he did.
He was too young for her, but then eventually they got together.
Joni Loves Chachi. It was
Yeah.
a spinoff.
Journey Loves
I'm
Chachi,
saying
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
right.
weird because you see that here he's like hitting on her. Meanwhile, he just got 8 phone numbers and is reporting to the phone like, "Hey, I'm
He's
a
like,
little
he's like,
kid."
he's like,
Ugh.
hey, did you keep up on your work? Yeah, here's 8 phone numbers for you, Fonz. And he's like,
Fucking
ah,
creepy.
oh, I forgot. I was supposed to bring it to Hollywood. I'll let her ride on my motorcycle. Eh.
Oh,
It's so weird. Oh no.
everybody was all men
None
were
of this
creepy
is
back
appeal.
then.
How is any woman going to find any of that appealing? I'm sorry.
I'm
I
like,
am trying to go back in time and put myself in a mentality where any of that is acceptable or cool, and none of it is. I'm trying to adopt 80s think, and it's not working, and I
listen,
can't get it.
I am a straight man in 2023, and I was crawling in my skin watching that
God.
scene. Like it was, I
So
was like,
bad.
oh God, so cringy. So cringy.
So gross. So
Oh my
gross.
God. So
Jesus
gratuitous.
Christ.
So many gratuitous butt shots of teenagers. Also
Holy shit.
weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We're-
can we I'm
yeah.
sorry. What Hope?
Where's Weezer? That
Where's-
would have been better if
Oh,
there was
yeah.
Weezer in this.
Now, please presenting Weezer. I like that. I like that music video.
Yeah, it's the best.
They made Happy Days happy again.
I mean,
Uh,
much happier than that pretended to be, which it actually was not.
What felt like all right, folks, what do we think?
Yeah.
Mrs. Cunningham. Hot?
No.
No, I think she's really a beautiful woman. What do you
She
think?
is. An attractive older woman, sure. I don't know if I would ever
She's like my
describe her.
age, John. Fuck off.
Right now? I don't think so.
Oh no.
Now she's
wait.
like 140.
147 to be exact.
Oh wow. Oh my
Um,
God.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's true, Dave. I do find you to be very attractive. So I guess maybe Mrs. Cunningham. What's her name? Marie? Mary?
I don't know. I don't know.
Something
That's a good
like that.
question.
Mrs.
No, yeah, Mrs.
What's up, Ken?
He's looking it
No,
up.
I say yeah, Mrs. I'm looking it up.
I can't remember her name.
Because
Marianne.
the
Marianne. That was it.
Yeah,
Marianne.
the father would always
Yeah.
call her by her first name.
Right. Yeah. And his name was
Was it Tom Bosley?
Howard.
Howard.
Howard
I think it was
Cunningham.
Howard. No, the actor was Tom
No,
Bosley.
Tom
yeah.
Bosley. Yes.
Yeah.
Tom Bosley was the actor, Howard was the character.
Right.
And is anyone really sure that this is like them talking about her going into his wallet and pulling out some money to buy driftwood for a lamp that he does not know how to make, I believe.
Also
How
creepy.
he put it as a reward to the missus, a reward to her. She can go buy that for being such a smart woman.
It's because she complimented him. Just for that,
Right.
you can buy that driftwood that you wanted. And okay,
you
I will
retrieve your money from my wallet.
I will admit, Dave, that Marianne, right? That's her name, Marianne.
Marion.
Marion.
I think it's Marion.
I will admit that she is too hot for him. Like he's
he's
like
yeah.
You know, as far as men go, he's not the most attractive, but he's a classy guy.
He's a hell of a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. Yes.
He even lets the Italian live in the garage.
And he's
It's
a
like,
good provider with all that money.
Just don't tell anyone about it.
Yeah, don't admit to anybody that we have an Italian and living in the garage.
You know, I mean, at least the way they write him, he is a much more, almost like a more forward-thinking guy than you would expect someone of that time to be.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
He's a little more empathetic. He's a little more emotional. You know, he's willing to listen to his kids more than supposedly people of that time would. So that's always, I mean, they wrote him as a much more empathetic person than you would think he would be.
He was, he was a much nicer father than I was to my children raising them.
Me too.
Yeah.
He's one of those fathers, like when you were a kid. And it was interesting too, because to me, you have the double thing about being the child of immigrants. So I grew up in a house where it's just a bunch of screaming Cubans. So I literally, and I know a lot of kids had this growing up. They're like, I don't know why my dad got so mad. You know, Mr. Brady wouldn't have handled it this way, or Mr. Cunningham wouldn't have handled it this way. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I know a lot of kids a lot of kids did have that experience of being like they're comparing their household to what they're seeing on television in these idealized family. But for me, it was also like, if it was a white parent, you know what I mean? Because it might, mom came at you with the fucking shoe, bam, bam, that's how we were raised. Carol Brady would never hit her kids with the shoe, So you compare yourself to these idealized parents, and let's be honest, it's 2023. I don't think anybody's father is as nice as Mr. Cunningham.
No, Mr. Cunningham, what I like about him is that he's nice, but he also doesn't take your shit. So like, he's not a pushover father. He's just a very understanding and empathetic father.
And I think, and you know what? I agree. And I think one of the ways you saw that in this episode was the way he was like, Richie, I raised you. You're a good young man. This is your decision to make, and I got your back. You know what I mean? And that at the time, I think that's a very forward kind of parenting to do, because even when I was a kid, which is a much different era than on this show, parents told you what to do and what you're going to be, I think it was very forward.
When I was a kid, you weren't allowed to wear your leather jacket at the beach. So, they were very accepting.
What are you doing? Take that off.
I'm sorry. I couldn't even fucking get my mouth through that. That's such a funny image.
So the father's looking at his kid and he goes to the guy next to him. You see my idiot son?
My idiot son, right? Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Now I want to say something. Marion was wearing a sailor's hat that said California on it in California.
That was awful.
That's the tourist.
So
that's the
bad
tourist
for her.
uniform.
The worst.
She was
fashion in the world.
Definitely.
She must have hated it.
depicted as like this like married mother who is just sort of like, oh, I get to be out of the house and I'm going to do everything that I could never do when I'm in the house, like buy half the things in the gift shop.
And
This
get
is
driftwood.
and get driftwood. Yeah. That's
Roasted.
mhm.
Awful. Why'd they do that to her, man? Can she have a good life? Like she goes out to the salon every 5 seconds to
Every
get her
5 seconds.
done, you know?
Something
What?
else now.
Like just give her like some kind of like a nice life. Like she gets her
Yeah.
nails did every day. You know, she gets her hair did and then she gets like massages and goes to the spa for years.
Now,
But as
something else.
her husband, his job is to buy her a vacuum cleaner for
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I want
They're calling it that for TV.
huh? Oh. I want I want to go back to the beginning of this episode where Richie was talking about I met a great girl. I'm gonna go meet her now. He's on the beach with her. They're making out in the water. They're having a great time. That very cliche, like young people's romance. It's like, who doesn't want that? And then she goes, I hope to see you again sometime. He goes, what are you talking about? She goes, I have to leave now and pack because I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Like, what? Like,
Wait, I have a problem with his fucking reaction. What do you mean? She goes, I hope we get to see each other again sometime.
yeah.
You don't live in fucking California, bro. You live in Milwaukee. You
Well-
were losing her no matter what.
Well, okay. Here's what I think. Now, they needed an excuse to get rid of that character. Like, they needed her there for the first couple of episodes so that he could have a reason to want to stay. And now here's the beginning of the third episode. He's struggling. Should I sign this contract and stay here for 5 years, or shouldn't I? Now, if the girl had stayed, like this is the girl that I love, and I have so much fun with her, and I blah 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 blah, it would have been a much more like, well, I don't want to leave her, so I'm going to stay here just for that reason.
Yeah.
The fact that she was like, I have to pack, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. It's like, you couldn't have given me, I don't know, a day's notice about this. We're
I
hanging.
agree.
We're hanging,
I do agree. Yeah.
like that writing was just so forced. I'm like, hey, okay, we're at the beach here. And now all of a sudden, I'm getting up and leaving.
You know what I think makes it forced?
Mm.
Here's what I think makes it forced. Oh my God, she's a great girl. I really care. I'm really dating. Blah blah. She's leaving. Okay. Rest of the episode never comes up.
That's true. Did anyone just hear Dave
Robo
Yeah,
did.
he glitched.
break up a little? Yeah.
Oh really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Say
You're like,
well, basically what Dave said was that, yeah, it's true. Like, Richie was disappointed that she was leaving and blah,
love
blah, blah.
interest
And the
blah,
love
blah,
interest.
blah.
She left and she was never brought up again. It's true. If Richie had said something along the lines of, well, if she was staying, I might sign this contract just to be with her, but now I kind of don't even have a reason to stay here, then it would have like come around full circle. It was just such an awkward, like, okay, you're here with this girl. All of a sudden, she needs to go away so that you can struggle over whether you want to sign the contract. And that's that.
And
But
support Fonzie.
And support
No
Fonzie.
longer, she was no longer a plot point. It was about Fonzie and his leather jacket on the
and
water.
his leather jacket on the water.
And
Now,
Richie's
wearing,
decision.
hey, booty shorts. Hey.
I have one other thing to say. One other thing. They were on the beach in Hollywood or whatever, California. They were all scantily clad. They were all like beautiful women wearing next to nothing, right? Soon as they get back to Milwaukee, they're back to being dressed like housewives. Where's it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's the air. It's the air quality in Milwaukee makes you.
Yeah.
You don't understand it because
Mhm.
you're not like a native Milwaukeean,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't live with the rules of the Milwaukeean. But that's what happens when you
But,
go
like,
there.
I gotcha. But even Joni
Yeah.
was dressed like a housewife. I'm like, dude, you're a teenage girl. What is this?
She's getting ready for her future.
Yeah, true. All right. I guess it was the 60s. By the way, whoever said it was the 50s, this episode takes place in the 60s. So, like sometime in the early 60s.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know.
It's interesting. I wondered about that. Is it really a 50s show or a 60s show? I didn't realize that.
I
It was
think
the
it's
60s.
I think it starts in 1958. Like the first couple of seasons are the 50s, and then it gets into the 60s after that.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember there was one early episode that they went to go see Psycho in the movie theater, and that movie came out in 1960. So, that's what clued me in.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a thing I wrote down that says Happy Days Jump the Shark Concerns. Can I read it to you guys?
Please.
Please.
Okay. Says
No.
first one is Fon- Fonzie is wearing a leather jacket. That's the first concern I wrote. Next one is Richie's dad doesn't give his mom money. She has to find his wallet. Like, that's weird. Number three, Richie's dad lets, in quotation, her buy dress what we talked about for a lamp as a reward. And Chachi has the chutzpah to be like hitting on Rosa and then later Joni, which is not only weird because he's 5, but because he he is also collecting like multiple womanizing phone numbers for someone else
For
later,
someone
which
else.
is really weird. Also, where is Weezer? Also, how is anyone really sure that the shark is staying in the small containment
I was going to
That's
make
what
that comment
I
with
was
myself.
any
wondering.
distinction of Fonzie not getting his dick bitten off by
His
Jaws?
dick bitten off.
Incidentally, Jaws is my real life initials.
Wait a second, though.
Jennifer Ann Woodison Sparklettis. Yes.
Wait a second, though,
Call me
because I
Hope.
don't want to forget this. I was thinking
Yeah.
this, and I haven't said it. I can't believe I haven't said it up until this point.
Right.
This episode takes place in the early 1960s, right?
Right.
Right.
Every time they showed that fucking shark, they made a musical reference to Jaws, which didn't come
Yeah.
out until the late 70s. Now, like, you would think that someone would have caught that, but no one did. And so we have a reference to Jaws in a show that takes place in the early 60s.
You know what?
That's-
I'm going to sue them
Yes.
for Steven Spielberg.
There you go.
For him, because I feel
Mhm.
he deserves it.
I agree 100%.
This is a time warp.
So
Okay.
so hold on a second. This is a thing that you guys have thought about.
Mhm.
That maybe the shark. Why are we saying? I don't understand this.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a conspiracy theory, and John F. Kennedy was not shot by the shark.
He was shot
But
by the shark.
JFK Jr. was. JFK Jr. was shot
Okay.
by the shark.
So explain to me what you guys said. That the shark. How do we know he was in the little circle? Is that?
Yeah, how like he was
Why
just
did it stay there?
he
There
was
no
just
How did it
under the
stay
underwater
circle.
barrier.
Yeah. Where
There's
did they
just like
where did they get
yellow
the shark?
buoys floating like in a
Well,
circle,
the shark
and
was
the shark's
supposed to
just
be
like, I'm gonna
transported to
stay
sea
here.
land or something like that.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, to like a aquarium thing.
I
Like, yeah,
understand,
they were
okay.
holding it there, but yeah, but how they
How do they
so they
know
put
that
some
that shark
floats.
isn't gonna hop up and bite Fonzie straight in the sack?
The sack.
And I thought it was also awesome how you got the dorsal fin. Like anytime they show the little floats,
Yeah.
you got the dorsal fin going around. The
Mhm.
first cut when they show the dorsal fin going around, you could see the water splashing up from the flippers that the
Yeah.
guy who's obviously underwater holding up the dorsal fin and
Obvious,
swimming
right?
around. You see the water shooting
Well,
up from
that's
behind
gotta
them.
definitely
my
be a
God.
That
shark
was
doing
awesome.
that. Yeah,
Now-
we believe you.
I wanna bring this around full circle, and I want to remind everyone that someone wrote a script that involves Fonzie wearing swim trunks and a leather jacket and jumping over a shark. And Richie Cunningham agreed to do it for him. And the people who read the script agreed to do this episode. This is
And the people who agreed to podcast this episode are survivors.
that we are survivors of a shark attack.
We could have all died with
Well,
Fonzie's balls and the possible bifurcation of this timeline. And if we did, we would be feeling that through infinity. Somewhere there's some like you know Rick and Morty episode where they're like bifurcating, and sometimes on Fonzie did get his balls ripped off by Jaws, and all of a sudden you realize, that could have been us
I could
in
have.
that leather jacket. I feel bad for Henry Winkler, I have to say, most of all. Uh, Shout out to Henry Winkler for
Why?
enduring
Why do you feel
Love
bad?
Henry
Do you think
Winkler.
he was
possible
just?
scenario. Yeah,
Do you feel bad because you're like
because
he
he
must
was
have
in
been
the
hot in that
episode,
jacket?
first of all, because he probably knew it's a stupid move to wear a leather jacket at a beach. He was probably
Stupid.
yeah.
I
Henry
want to.
He
Winkler was
obviously
was
learned how to
probably
water
go.
ski.
Henry Winkler was probably going to the producers and saying, this isn't cool, right?
This isn't cool.
Like this is
Yeah.
not. This isn't cool. Like Henry
No.
Winkler, if you've ever seen him interviewed, Henry
Yeah, he
Winkler's
knows.
that genuinely
He
a
knows.
pretty cool dude. Like he's a
Yeah.
really cool
No,
guy.
he
He
knows.
knows
He
what
has to
fucking
know.
cool is.
He knows. He knows.
I have a feeling
that's why I say I
the
feel
second
bad for him.
I have a feeling the second half of that conversation was the producer going, Henry, it's been 5 seasons.
Yeah.
You've been getting a standard paycheck for the last 5 years, which you never got before. Just put on the damn jacket.
Okay.
And then Henry Winkler was like, hey.
Hey. This is a true story, though. This is a true story. When they were reading the script about like Fonzie jumping the shark, Donnie Most and Ron Howard were like, doing a table reading, like, just kind of going over the script. And Donnie Most actually said, "What the fuck is this?" I don't know if he actually said what the fuck, but
Wow.
he actually said they couldn't write anything better than this. And Ron Howard, I think it was Ron Howard, had to say, "Look, just do it. We'll get back into a flow." It was like, the beginning of the season was they went to Hollywood and it was just this stupid, ridiculous story. And by the way, this was not the first episode where Fonzie wore a leather jacket on water skis.
Yes, true.
He did
And
it previously on. I'm sorry. What, Hope?
oh no, and he also met Mork once. That was
Yes.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
that I
did.
love that
Or
episode.
twice. He
Met
met him
Mork twice.
twice.
And
And
Laverne and
Mork wiped his memory on
Yeah.
the second one.
Laverne and Shirley were also
Yes.
they got their start on Happy Days. Like everyone got their start on Happy Days, man. Happy Days
Yep.
was the
It
original
did.
That 70s Show.
And what I thought was great too was the whatever, the California kid, the
Oh,
guy that was
God.
Fonzie's nemesis.
Yeah.
That was the bad guy from Animal House.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Wow.
That's
I
funny.
did recognize one of the bikini girls. There was this blonde-haired girl that was always standing next to him, and I'm like, I don't know her name, but I've seen her on so many shows through the 70s and 80s. Whenever they need like a standard, pretty white blonde girl, you know what I mean? And I was like, hey, you're from that show.
Ooh.
Like, if you're one of those, you know what I mean?
They also use Maureen McCormick for that, who is, for those of you who don't know, Marsha Brady from the Brady Bunch in the original run. Yeah. So I
You know,
guess
it's funny. We make fun of all these things.
Mhm.
Like we've done these old comic books and all
Right.
these things we criticize them for. And the thing I always am comforted in by, because I live in a world of misery and everything
Sure.
sucks, is that 50 years from now, our grandchildren are going to look back at us, and as much as we're like, hey, this is problematic, blah blah, they're going to look at us and go, guys, you guys were fucking white supremacist, sexist scumbags.
Oh
Mhm.
God.
No matter how good, no matter how
Where's
good we think we are,
Weezer?
that's what's going to
Where
happen.
is Weezer?
Where's
Weezer
Weezer?
made this
Where's
whole
Weezer?
situation better. Ooh, I look just like
Ooh-wee.
getting hot.
And I
It's so
remember
much better. It's so
he
much
goes,
better.
the
with that.
guitar. I'm sorry, Hope. I don't mean to cut you
Go ahead.
off.
It's
Guys,
okay.
it's okay. It's okay. When they did the guitar riff that goes, dee-doo-dee-dee-dee-dee-doo, the guy like slammed his head down on the table It's like, oh, well, there's no beating that. There's no one who could play anything better than that. So we're done for.
Happy Days ended on that note. That's actually the best note for that shit to end on. I'm glad they did actually.
That's right.
Fucking Weezer saved Happy Days. Fuck yeah.
Nice. Nice.
So did anybody catch the moment on a with in the episode?
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember what's the sister's
Joni.
Chachi was like, Joni. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Joni was like, oh, you gotta stop Fonz. You gotta stop. And she's like all frantic. And then later, as they're about to go, you see Joni with the guy she met all smiling. She's like, hey, let's watch. Oh!
I noticed that too. That's hilarious. That's so funny. That's so great. All right.
I wonder if that's like a cut. You know how they recycle scenes? I wonder if that's like a recycled from a different, like from the first episode where he raced the water ski guy. And I wonder if they're like reusing the footage or something.
Could be. I'm sorry, Ken, were you saying something?
No, and one thing that I noticed too is one of Fonzie's things that he would do is, when something wasn't working or if he wanted to find a quick way to get around something, he'd give it a smart little, rap with his hand. He'd give it like, little forearm, hammer fist punch like that. So like he wants the jukebox to work. He doesn't want to pay any money. Gives a little smack, starts working. All right.
With his magic power of coolness.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, like Jesus. But go ahead, Ken.
Exactly. So the end of the episode, everybody's left. Fonzie's the last one. He's leaving out of Al's diner and he's leaving the place. And so to shut the lights out, so he hits the wall to turn the lights out. The light switch was right above where he could have just flipped
and
the
still
switch.
on the
on
on position.
Right. So it's like it was totally like, it was like, I understand, whatever the car he's working on doesn't work. So he gives it a smack and it works. Again, the jukebox gives it doesn't work. The light switch is right there.
Yes.
It works.
All right. So Ken, I'm gonna throw something out there for you to contemplate. Okay. So I met you now. How old are you now?
I'm 52.
You're 52.
Well,
okay. So you're 52 years old. I've known you as a cool guy. Since I met you, I was like, this motherfucker's cool. I like him. Right.
Thank you.
But how
long,
long have you occupied the cool space? Like how long? Like I'm still struggling to find my coolness. I know I wasn't when I was younger. So if I'm even remotely close to cool, it's only like 6 months of experience. Like how long do you think you've been in the cool space?
See now, it's such a subjective thing. Cause like, when did I think I started becoming cool? Or when was I?
No, because if you think you're cool, you're not. When did you when do other people go, so you're a cool motherfucker? Like me, what I just said.
I'm gonna alleviate all this discomfort and just say that you were always cool.
When you were young,
you developed into a cool ass dude now. So
with an epic beard.
Every part of you that's ever been
I gotta
made
think,
you cool.
I gotta think
so
it was probably. I gotta think it was probably sometime around in my 30s, like when I stopped trying to want to be cool.
When you stopped caring.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I always care, but it just, I got to the point where I was so old where it's like, I can't do this shit anymore. I'm too old.
I'm gonna refer to Bane and the Dark Knight, where Bane was like, you went into the darkness. I was born into the darkness. And that's the difference between your coolness and Fonzie's coolness. So Fonz was born into coolness because Italians are born into coolness, according to NBC television. Right. So that's the difference. If you had been born into coolness, you would know only uncool guys use light switches. That's what this is all about. It's about the coolness. Are you naturalized coolness or are you immigrant coolness? And
immigrant coolness.
Like many people, you're immigrant coolness. Naturalized would be you were born and you said you weren't when you were younger. You came in later.
I was I wasn't born into it. I definitely it was something.
Yeah, your immigrant coolness.
Yeah, something I had to learn and then unlearn. much like
right.
a Jedi.
So what happens when you're born into naturalized coolness, you know about the light switch things, but when you have to take your test for your citizenship and coolness as a immigrant coolness, that's not on the test, so you don't learn those things. If you were born in coolness, you would have known you don't use the light switch because that's for non-cool people.
No, I was
If you don't
definitely
mind my
not
saying
born.
so, it would be for not
But
cool people to be instead. If you're gonna turn a light switch off, you better be headbutting that shit.
that's for
That's
the
not cool to
Yes.
punch. You
No.
little bitch. The fuck, Fonzie.
what you're
No,
what you're talking about. What you're talking
I'm
about is
talking
not
about real
naturalized.
coolness. I'm
That's
talking
not
about savage coolness,
naturalized.
which is still a little different. We're
That
talking about
see
that.
what you're talking about is different. Fonz is naturalized coolness. What you're talking
Right.
about is
Dictator
coolness.
coolness. Now I have a question.
Very
Headbutting
different.
her.
I have a question about that light switch thing. Like, like you were saying, he hit the wall, the lights went off, the light switch is right there. Now what happens when Al comes back in the next morning and he's like, the lights aren't working? How do I
No,
get the
light switch
lights
is
to work?
fried now.
Yeah,
You can't funnel that much cool energy through the electrical system and expect that the light switch is going to work. There was probably
okay.
a power outage 2 blocks away.
Yeah, he's like, bam.
My guess is he came in the next day, and because of what Fonzie did, he, sort of miswired or crosswired it. Al turns it on to make it work, starts a fire, end of Al's diner.
I want to see.
Thank you, Fonz.
I want to see like what happens off camera. He's like, listen, do me a favor, please. You keep frying my circuits. Just use the light switch. Hey, that ain't cool.
Hey.
By the way, I
Oh
want to
my
remind
goodness.
everybody this is a guy whose office is in the bathroom at Al's Diner. So,
Wow. Professional.
now,
Hey. Like, nice. You're a
tell
urinal.
me something. After he smashed the wall and the lights went off, right? And he's about to go out. Then he sees the picture of himself. He's like, oh, the great Fonzie, whatever. And he rips it off the wall. It looks like he's about to smash it over his leg. And then he stops. Is that because he's like, I feel secure enough in myself to know that I can destroy this picture? And then he's like, nah, not yet. Like, is that a good thing that he didn't destroy it? Or should he have destroyed it?
It's foreshadowing, I think. I think
Mhm.
he's trying to tell you that he wants to leave that town or something.
Yeah.
But,
He took it with him.
he's right. He was going to destroy it and then take himself with him.
Yeah.
And then he just decided, hey, maybe I'll take a little bit of my time. Hey, maybe I'll
Hey.
stop wearing leather jackets at the fucking beach. Like, hey, stop collecting sweet girls' numbers in this town, ruining my eyes. Hey,
Nice.
what the fuck?
these high school girls' phone numbers.
And then very shortly after that, he was in a movie with Michael Keaton where he played the exact opposite of Arthur Fonzarelli. What was that? It was Michael Keaton and Shelley Long. I forget the name of the movie, but it was yeah. He was still doing Happy Days, but he played a character who was like basically a complete wimp.
Really?
Yeah. No one remembers this?
Mm, Michael Keaton was a wimp?
No. Henry Winkler played a wimp.
Oh, Henry Winkler was the wimp with
Yeah.
Shelley Duvall and Michael
No.
Keaton?
Shelley Long.
Oh, Shelley Long.
Shelley Long played like a prostitute. Michael Keaton was just like some weird like worker that he got matched up with, I guess. I'm gonna find this out.
Oh,
Michael-
I know
think
exactly what you Night Shift.
Night Shift. That's the one. Yes.
You know,
That
it's
was-
funny.
yeah, that
I
was
remember
where-
the movie, but I don't remember the movie.
Ah, yes.
Yep. No, that was the one where basically Henry Winkler and Michael Keaton want to they start like a call girl service.
Oh, that's Michael Keaton with the fucking tape recorder. He's like, I'm an idea
Yes.
guy. I'm an
Yeah.
idea guy.
Yeah.
I'm an idea
Right?
guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
That's like when
He's like-
everybody learned what a loser really is.
Right. And he writes that. He says, so prostitution, what is it? Let's write it out. He's like, prostitution. So
yes.
for
Institution.
pros, pros. You guys are pros.
Yes.
Tit. Well, yeah, tit.
Did, yeah.
Two, because there's two of them, because two, and then shun to say no, get away, I don't want it.
All
so
right.
yeah, prostitution.
Hey, prostitution. All right. Well,
That
I'm sorry,
what Chachi wished Rosa was.
a prostitute.
I couldn't believe it.
I'm pretty sure Chachi wants it for free.
I need to write another episode of Happy Days into some
I want
stage thing I do.
I'm sorry,
It'd be
Hope.
amazing.
I want
What?
to. I said I'm sorry, Hope. I didn't mean
Oh,
to.
it's okay.
I keep talking over you. I don't intend to. But yes, I'd like to rewrite Happy Days. The entire series takes place in the early 50s or the early 60s, but like by today's standards. I
What do you
want to
mean?
see it.
Historic standards of historical accuracy of
No,
what
no,
the
no, no.
50s really were like?
Like takes place in the early 60s, but with today's values and morals of like,
Oh.
like the way what cool is,
So it's like suddenly everybody gets a clue and you're not
Mhm.
allowed to treat each other like garbage
Exactly. Like
and lord it over each other on power trips
Marion.
and
Yeah, Marion doesn't
be
cook.
creepy.
And in this case, Howard Cunningham is looking at what the fuck is his name? The kid.
Richie?
Gotcha.
Thank you. Howard says,
Richard
Richie,
Cunningham.
take the fucking movie contract because if you want to go to college and get a degree in journalism to be a writer, you're going to need money. So take the fucking movie contract because I'm not paying for your college.
They go and say Richard when it's the father. He's always saying Richard. But also,
Richard.
yes, he always said the whole name as far as I remember. But also he didn't really actually try to guide Richie that much. I felt, which was nice to see. I think someone mentioned something lightly
Yeah.
on this earlier, but I really did like that myself that they said, you know, let's give this kid his own mind on it. Let's actually let him steer his life. That was for the shittiest episode ever made, that was actually a really beautiful inclusion
Mm-hmm.
on their part to offer a choice to this young man to say that this is your life. It's beautiful and we want you to live it the way you choose. So
Well,
I support you.
I kind of agree because one of the things I thought about when I see these kind of episodes of different shows where the parents dictating things, I always think of my mom because my mom, I'm very close to my mother. My mother's 81. I remember my mother always told me when she was younger, she was in the University of Havana. This is before the regime, right? The Castro regime. So she was a student there, going to college, going to college. My mother wanted to go to school for either psychology or psychiatry. That's what she wanted to do. And her parents made her go to college for business.
oh,
None of it mattered because the dictatorship came. They shut down the University of Havana. They sent a lot of my family members to the firing squad. A lot of Aguilars died. And then they fled the country and came here. So it didn't make a difference at the end of the day. But I can imagine, can you imagine having to go to college? You know how much work school can be. Having to stick your head into shit that you couldn't give a fucking less about, and you're forced into it.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
rough.
Yeah, and we have to work during it. That's fucking awful.
Yeah, yeah. So I when I see these kind of things where it's the parents letting the kid make his mind up, blah blah blah, I always think of my mom because my mother had that choice, and I love my grandparents. I was very close to them, but it was the times, But it was hard, and I empathize for my mother who had that choice taken away from her.
So, also, Hope, I'm gonna. You say for the worst episode ever made, that was a really beautiful moment at the end. When they made it, they weren't thinking, what can we add to the worst episode ever made to sort of redeem it. They were just sort of like, what can we put in this episode? This sounds good. So
yeah, but it just happened to be a right message. I thought it was so interesting that it made its way there, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
to see this load of crap, Henry Winkler's nutsack flying circus over a fucking teethy grave,
Oh
like
God.
in one bifurcation of time that has ever possibly. I'm so sorry, Henry Winkler. His poor nuts in some Rick and Morty land.
In
I
a Rick
keep
and
thinking
Morty
about
land.
it. Anyway,
All
uh,
right. Let's
that's a lot to
let's
put in that.
so then let's unload and let's just go over how many sharks up Hitler's ass do you
Come on.
Sharks.
No.
All right, hold on. Before we start
Wow. What?
scoring,
Oh,
before we
wow.
start scoring with sharks up Hitler's ass, um, fucking, I'm gonna stop myself, but I
the
almost said poor Hitler, and then I realized what that meant. And I was like, I'm not saying that.
Yeah. No,
But
that's amazing.
before we get into rating and sharks up Hitler's ass, one thing I will say, and that I thought was a cool thing, um, and one of the reasons why like Richie's one of those very popular, beloved characters, Richie Cunningham, because he's got this opportunity. He's a horny, young, just out of teenage guy. He could be a movie star, right?
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was like, everybody's like, we always, the father was like, oh, we raised you to go to college, Richard, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this fucking guy is going to walk away from an opportunity that can set him up for life. Even if it doesn't go great, it's 5 years. It's a 5-year contract. You're 18, 17. Who gives a shit, right? Even if it doesn't. And then I remembered and they went into it because it was, well, I didn't remember they said it, that this guy always wanted to be a writer. He didn't choose to pass on the deal because I'm supposed to go to college. It was actually because he knew this is what I love doing. This is what I'm good at doing. This is what I should be doing. And got to be honest with you. And I remember when I rewatched the episode, I forgot it from when I watched it originally. When I rewatched the episode, I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it pivoted for me that it wasn't about just doing what you're told. Richie was doing what was best for himself,
Right.
or at least he thought was. And that really stuck out for me, that he chose to do that because it's what I want to do. That's my real dream. I thought that was a really cool moment in the show.
And to add to that, it was like his dad kind of like guided him to that realization. Richie had the realization, and then Fonzie gave him the realization again. He said, you got to be happy with what you do because whatever it is that you're going to be doing, you're going to be doing it for a long time. He's like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why everybody who's 16, 17 years old needs a 32-year-old back.
Yes.
That kind of advice.
All right. So on that positive note, how many sharks up Hitler's ass do you give this? I'm going to start with Hope. Hope, how many sharks up Hitler's ass do you give this?
I mean, it's so easy to answer. No one else can answer anything else. If you're being real, it gets all of the sharks of Hitler's ass ever, forever, in any infinite possible assessment of the amount of sharks that could ever or will ever be possible or
Wow.
impossible.
That's a lot of sharks.
That many.
It's a lot of sharks.
A lot of sharks. He's the guy got in Himmel. All right.
That's about.
Was ist das?
Whatever is the maximum ever is that answer. And I'm sure you will agree.
Okay.
That's very
For
high.
many
That's
reasons.
very high.
That is. It's too, all right. See,
it's mostly because Hitler deserves it.
Right.
But also because the episode really does ultimately suck mostly.
Yes.
It's super uncomfortable in a lot of places, not warm and fuzzy places. And actually, like, it's no offense. Even if I was around that time, I would still be like, what the flying fuck is going on here? I wish the flying nun was actually going on there instead. Like, and that was also weird. But like, I can't tell which is weirder, honestly, right now. It's just weird.
The reason that I give these kinds of ratings, like Sharks Up Hitler's Asshole, to rate this episode of Happy Days, is because it doesn't really matter what the rating that you give it is. Oh yeah, I fucking hate this episode, and I want all of the infinite sharks up Hitler's asshole at the same time, and I want them to have like,
Yeah.
like inside out teeth. So, all right. Um,
Awesome.
okay, so Dave, Sharks Up Hitler's asshole.
Is the scale still 8 to
No,
88?
it's forever infinite times
Yeah,
everything.
how many sharks do you want in Hitler's asshole?
I just gave the most possible rating. You can say most possible
I
rating.
would say my rating, if the scale is 1 to infinite, mathematically, I would want to be middle. So it'd be 1, it would be 0.5 times infinity. There'll be half
50%. That's
Yeah,
like not very
50% of infinity.
It's half infinite, which is quite a bit. It's quite a
All
bit.
right.
So, and
Okay.
the reason for that is like, yes, oh my God, it's Fonzie.
High score.
This is the problem that a lot of these family sitcoms have when they get the one funny character and they build a whole show around him. And that's what they did with the Fonz. Because the Happy Days was kind of everything was the Fonz. He was the most memorable. Everybody talked about the Fonz. So there was a lot of it that was so stupid, so corny, so hokey. But what I liked about it is there was something I liked about it, and what I liked about it was kind of a reminder why people were like, gee, I wish, the Cunninghams were my parents. Right? And why Richie Cunningham was a good character, not because he was always right, but because he always tried to do right. And that's the human condition. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's, but Richie was always trying to do the right thing. And I think it showed up in this episode.
Nice. Okay. Ken?
I'm gonna definitely in no way, shape, or form can you disagree that this was an extremely subpar episode. I mean, just from the plot points that go nowhere, the extremely horrible acting, Donnie Most is just at probably his worst in this than you've ever seen. He's just so he's not even funny. And then just the idea that the people either producing or directing, they had no idea what to do with the laugh track. Sometimes it's in there.
No, they
sometimes
didn't.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, no, good. Yeah, put the laugh track in. And then another guy's like, maybe we don't use the laugh track. And then later, no, this is a good place for the laugh track. It just, there was nothing was making any sense. And just, obviously the whole thing, like Fonzie and the water sports, just so damn stupid.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, and Fonzie out of nowhere can ride water skis. And then,
which is very weird for a guy from Milwaukee.
Yes.
Right. And
yes.
then Mouth and Richie both know how to pilot a speedboat enough to safely water ski someone. Just
over a shark.
Right.
Over a shark.
All this crap coming out of nowhere.
Yes.
So, but I don't want to, I'm not going to say, it's like, I don't want to say it's the worst thing ever, just because that point of, the dad giving, really good advice and saying, this is a decision and we want you to do this, but you seem like you want to do this. And you know what, this has to be your decision. And I'll talk to you about it, but I'm going to support you in whatever you do, which was really, that was really a big thing. And that's not something that was really kind of the norm of, late 50s, early 60s parenting, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was, and then also them encouraging Richie, and like you said, Richie wanting to do the right thing in the end, saying, I'm going to stay true to the convictions of what I've always wanted to do, and I'm not going to fall for the bright lights and the stardom. I'm going to move ahead with what I've always wanted to do and stay true to myself. That was also a great thing. But I mean, that being said, there is a reason why they call it jumping the shark. And this was, that type of situation. So I want to keep it from the 8 to 88, because going into infinity, that kind of makes a rating meaningless, which I understand, John.
Right.
It is
obviously, yes. Mm-hmm.
but I'm probably
I'm
gonna put
sorry,
this at
but
a high.
Hitler just deserves it. That's the only really
He
truth.
just deserves, regardless
You
of Happy
know,
Days, Hitler deserves sharks up the
Right.
ass. That's it.
I mean, if it,
that's mostly why.
if it's just a matter, I think this should be um season 5, episode 3 of Happy Days amount of sharks going up Hitler's ass
That's still a lot.
All right. Okay.
because
Yeah,
he
sure.
definitely deserved it.
I love this life, dude.
All right.
I love this life,
Now,
man.
let
Woo!
me kind of organize my thoughts on this. Now, there was one I, I this episode was what, 24 minutes, and there were so many things wrong with it. Like, other than the scene at the end where it's like, okay, yeah, that's how you can wrap up the episode, the 3-part story. Do what makes you happy, don't do what you think you should do, blah blah blah. Um when Fonzie was gonna jump the shark, and Marion is depicted as incredibly stupid in this scene. She goes, "But isn't that dangerous?" And Howard goes, "Of course it's dangerous." And Marion goes, "Well, do something." And he goes, "What do you want me to do? Talk to the shark?" And she goes, "Oh, Howard, could you?" I'm like, "Okay, come on, man. She's not that stupid. She's not that stupid of a person."
The
This is,
worst.
yeah. So, I mean, that line alone, I'm like, I didn't like it, first of all. And like you were saying, Ken, there was no laugh track when she said, "Oh, Howard, could you?" They just let it go to the next scene. I'm like, that was just awkward. So, um, yeah, too many things wrong with this episode that it's like it's fun to pick on, it's fun to make fun of it, right? But in all seriousness, this was a really bad episode. It was very poorly put together. It was poorly written. It was the beginning of season 5, which was like, holy shit, man, really? You're starting the season off with this? Um, and then of course there's Fonzie water skiing with a leather jacket on, which just that's the image that is imprinted on in everyone's mind. When you think jump the shark, that's what you think of. And and so I'm gonna give this 82 million and 17 sharks up Hitler's ass. Because
Wow.
Yeah.
you
Wow.
know what, man, if we can find that many sharks, I'd be happy.
Oh.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a very specific number in such
Right.
a large scale.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
man.
It is the shark attack of the century. So,
So
It's
I'm
the
curious.
Sharknado of ratings.
yes.
Wow.
Straight up Hitler's ass. That's fucking beautiful, man.
Mm,
You should be proud of yourself. Oh,
yeah,
yo.
I
Putting
am.
sharks up Hitler's asses together. We're one fucking brave bunch. Fucking shouting this shit through timelines where maybe there's like weird time bandit overlords who could try to steal our souls for saying shit like that or something. We're
Whoa.
brave as fuck.
Moment for the time bandits. A
Ah,
Yeah, you're
moment for the
welcome.
time bandits. Thanks for
That shit
bringing
was
that one
the
up.
shit. I love that shit.
That's
That
a
was
good
good
one.
shit.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So I got a question for the council here.
okay.
The Council of Elrond. Um, when you watch these shows,
Mhm.
I always find this interesting. They're supposed to be comedies. How often do you actually laugh?
Okay, so
Uh,
oh, I'm just
uh,
gonna say that I laugh very, very freely. So I feel like I'm not a good person to ask that, but Hope, what were you gonna say?
well, I don't actually. This is like one of two things that I've watched of my own volition in the last 13 years because I don't watch TV or movies at all. I just did it for this podcast
Hmm.
because, like, I love torturing myself, I guess.
Right?
So, I definitely love torturing Hitler. That's like a reason to come back every time.
Why we come back, right?
So that's pretty much why I keep doing this because I'm keeping hoping that we'll be shoving shit up Hitler's ass, which I felt like putting Santa's ass full of stuff was a little rude. You know,
Mm.
who knows if he likes that or not? We didn't ask him. Yeah. We're only putting stuff up people's asses not consensually when they like, do mean things.
Right.
Anyway,
Okay. Yeah.
that's why I come back to this. But yeah, um, we're brave motherfuckers.
Hey, there you
Yeah,
go.
no.
Um, so how about we do some plugs? Ken.
Okay, so you guys can find me on Facebook at Ken Radner, Radner.
Mm-hmm.
You can also find me on Twitter at Ken Data 2023. And then if you enjoy the listening to my dulcet tones of voice, you can find me on the Star Trek: The Undiscovered podcast, which is a podcast I do with a group of friends. John's been an on and off guest again, and I hope to see a bunch of other people on there. We begin recording our second season the end of January, and we will begin our second season in broadcast in early February. So I hope you guys all give it a listen. We're on Spotify and we're on Apple Podcasts as well.
Nice. All right. Dave.
So you can find me on Facebook. It's Dave Aguilar. That's Dave, and the last name is Aguilar. You can find me on Instagram, where I am at basically just Dave. It's not a description. That is the name, basically just Dave. And then one of my other side projects, I do a little bit of writing for fun and for dealing with my depression, and which is largely the bulk of my personality. And you could find that stuff up on ariesdesk.blogspot.com. That's EYRIES desk, ariesdesk.blogspot.com. So come down and take a look and get depressed with me.
Okay. Hope.
That's one of the last known surviving members of a thing called Secret Ion, aka High On, aka I'm High on Life. What are you high on? Magic Ion. Oh, you're the drummer of that band, aren't you, John Seymour? You're
That's me.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yay! And then we go to Safe Sonic Spaces, place just for you and you and you and you to create and uphold safe sonic spaces with your friends. You go to music venues and you're finding there's some unsafe behavior. You either tell a friend or you tell security, and your friend will help take you to security to help you with whatever situation needs your attention if it is a safety situation. We're going to teach this in the community so people will speak up and stand up for themselves and not be employing people who are acting of a certain nature or doing co-banding with them on play dates out and endangering their friends with wrong acting persons, being safe. And then I'm doing some writing for our band and another band, Tides of Atlantis, and an electronic experimental band with a bunch of to be strangers, not to be strangers for long. And I'm also creating art under the name Liquid Imagination, professional portraits, murals, logos, various designs, scene and stage, costume, theatrical makeup, and a whole bunch more. Brought to you by this Hope
Excellent.
Woodison. Yeah.
Okay. And for me, John Seymour, JON space SEYMOUR. That's me on Facebook. I am looking at the camera with a goofy smile, doing a finger gun. Very dangerous, as you say, Hope. That's me on Facebook. Here's
Second Amendment. Second Amendment.
There it is.
He can do what he wants.
The right to bear arms. Okay.
Oh,
So anyway,
Anyway.
So yeah, I have this podcast, Bullshit Hour with John Seymour. This is a subsidiary. John's Bullshit Hour with John Seymour presents this podcast is Lamb Chops because that's the way I do it. I have another podcast called The Hour of Comics is Upon Us. Everyone on this panel has been on that show, which means you have to listen to that show, right? So,
Yeah, you do.
yeah.
If you
Ken,
don't listen to it, you're not living your full life.
right. Ken was on the episode with this exact panel, as a matter of fact. So that was fun. And
Yes, the best.
all right. And it was the best. But even other than those episodes, it's a lot of fun to listen to because we get opinions and stuff about comic books and we don't always hate them. So that's the thing that you want to look out for. And Mad Tea Party. Now, this is way into the future. Mad Tea Party is playing the Orange Lantern in Paramus, New Jersey on February 17th.
Bro,
Now,
you're going
Whoa.
to the OL?
What?
Dude, I haven't been to the OL in like 20 years. That's awesome.
Well, that means, Dave, that you are also going to the OL.
Oh,
Whoa.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my backyard, bro.
February 17th. Don't miss it. Mad Tea Party. All right. And that'll be that for now. So I'd like to say good night, Ken. Good night, Dave. A good night, Hope. Thank you all for participating. Good night, everyone. And we will see you next time.
Und der Haifisch, der hat Zähne und die trägt er im Gesicht. Und Mäckis, der hat ein Messer, doch das Messer sieht man nicht. An dem schönen blauen Sonntag liegt ein toter Mann am Strand und ein Mensch geht die Ecke, den man Mäcki Messer nennt.